Welcome back to the Notary Podcast hosted by me, Daniel C. Lewis. And I'm so glad to see you back this week because this week we have a very hot topic. We have the number one question I'm asked each and every month at both in-person notary meetups plus online notary meetups. Daniel, what fees can I charge as a notary public, whether a notary signing agent or doing general notary work? Without further ado, let's get right into it. Cue the music. Welcome back to the Notary Podcast hosted by me, Daniel C. Lewis. And if you like the content today, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to your groups, your Facebook groups, your LinkedIn groups, your Twitter, all the groups that you're in, your notary groups and business professional groups. We love to do this podcast and we love the content. If you like the content, make sure you, like I said, like, share, and subscribe. This week, we're going to be talking about fees. That's right. Fees. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what fees you should charge in your jurisdiction because that might vary, but the number one question I get all the time is what fees can I charge for either general notary work or notary signing agent work dealing with real estate in my jurisdiction. And we're going to get right into the components of what to charge and how to charge for those fees. Now, I'm going to give you about 8 things that you should consider when you're looking at charging your notary fees. The very first thing you should consider is your state laws and fee limitations. You got to know what your state laws require or the guidelines in your state. You have to know that. And you can get that from the Secretary of State. Usually state guidelines are on the Secretary of State's in most jurisdictions website, but you need to get your state handbook to find out what is permitted for you to charge on notarial fees. Many states cap the maximum fee notaries can charge for certain notarial acts. Familiarize yourself with the state fee schedule to remain compliant. So remember that. Additional fees, in a lot of jurisdictions, you can charge as a notary additional fees. Check if your state allows additional fees such as travel, printing, convenience charges, and understanding any caps on those fees. There's usually a cap on travel fees. They usually go by the federal guidelines. Now, a lot of notaries are in jurisdictions where they say they do general notary work or they shy away from general notary work because the notarial fees are capped. My recommendation, I've been doing this since 2003, my recommendation, if you're in that state and say, well, I can't do any general notary work because they don't allow travel fee for notary work and they just have a notary fee. You only can charge, no matter how far away it is, you can only charge a fee, notarial fee. My recommendation, if you're living in a jurisdiction like that, check out what courier companies charge for carrying documents from point A to point B. Before I became a notary, I had worked for a law firm, a family law firm, and we used to hire carriers or couriers to come pick up documents and take them to the courthouse to get filed and do the filing fee. We used to pay people to do that, and we used to pay premium fees. We passed that on to the clients, but we used to pay premium fees. If you're a notary in a state that limits what you can charge, you can't charge a travel fee for notarial services, and people are calling you about doing just general notary work, I would enhance your business as not just a notarial business, but also maybe call yourself, let's say your last name is Smith. Smith Notary Document Carrier Service, where you're encompassing not just notarial work, but you're encompassing document service, because a lot of times when you do general notary work, people ask you to print out things. So you're doing document service, and you can check with your local FedEx, UPS, or other places that allow you to copy things, see what they charge for copying documents or printing out documents. You'll be surprised at how much they charge these days for just printing out one page or 2 pages, or copying over pages. So you can, if your state doesn't allow you to have a travel fee, you can also encompass document services, carrier services, scan back services, and fax services, because you can fax from a smartphone, and notarial services. So you can, but make sure you check with your local state guidelines what they need. So that's the first thing. Check your state and local guidelines on what fees you can charge. Second thing you should consider when you're looking at charging fees, look at the market rates. And what that means is look at what other notaries are charging for different services. Research what other notaries in the area charge for similar services to stay competitive while ensuring profitability. Look at the demand and availability. In areas with fewer notaries, you may be able to charge slightly higher fees for your service. So it depends on your area. In my area, like here's a perfect example. I do a lot of hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living, cardio places, heart hospitals. I do a lot of that type of service. When I first start doing the service, I noticed that the hospital have a list of notaries that they would call to come to the hospital. And I moved up to the top of that list by offering additional services, like if someone calls me for a good example, from the hospital, hey, I have a power of attorney or advance directive I need notarized while I'm in the hospital. And I have a list of questions I'll ask that person as a part of my service to make sure that they meet the state guidelines with identification. They're not under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Nobody's coercing them, and they are mentally competent. And then they usually say, yeah, if they meet those guidelines, what happens is I would try to schedule an appointment with them. And they say, well, wait a minute. Let's not do this appointment. I got to figure out how I'm going to print the document out before you get here. And I just accidentally ran into this and said, well, why don't you email me the document, because they have their smartphone in the hospital. Email me the document, I'll print it out, and that's one less thing you have to worry about. So know what your competition is doing as far as other notaries, and if you can enhance your service and with that enhanced service, charge appropriate fee for that. So I do charge for them emailing me, printing out the fee, carrying the document to the hospital, and also sometimes they need me to scan that document. I can scan it right there in the hospital. So know what services you offer. So the second thing is knowing the market, knowing what other notaries are charging, what other notaries are doing. Not to say they're your competition, but knowing how to enhance your service so that you stand out. So whenever I charge the hospital, they never question that. They always say, hey, thanks. That's just been a big help for us, for our patients. So that's just another thing that you should just be aware of, knowing what the market rates are. And then the third thing to consider when you're thinking about charging for your fee, or consider when you're thinking about giving a fee, is your time and effort and the complexity of the task. Notarize multiple documents or dealing with large signings may justify higher fees. Time spent, considering the time including any waiting or preparation time, in addition to the notarization itself. Here, another great example. The hospital example I gave is a great example of the complexities of a notarization. A great example of that is I had a call for general notary work just this week. The person said it's going to be one signer, and it's going to be one page that you need notarized. So I quoted them a fee. When I got there, it was one signer and one page that needs to be notarized, but they wanted that one page copied and notarized with a wet signature 5 times. So you just got to remember the complexity of signers of the notary assignment. Always ask, how many signers are there? How many copies do you need of that same document? How many documents do you need notarized? That's a great way of asking. And then when you get to, especially when you're doing general notary work, a lot of times you get signers that says, oh, it's 1 or 2 pages. They minimize how much they have, or they don't count how many notarizations there is. And then you get there and it's double the amount that they thought of. But you can show them that when you get there. I always say when I get a general notary work from a client that I haven't seen before, it's going to be approximate. I get the information and say it's going to be approximately this amount. This is going to be the fee for it. And then when I get there, I can say, well, because it's more here or more there, and I show them and never get any pushback on that. So know the time, the complexity of the notarization, and you should consider that as part of what you would charge a fee for. Fourth thing that you should consider, the travel cost. Mileage and travel. A lot of in state regulations, they'll tell you what you can charge per mile on travel costs. If you are offering mobile notary services, calculate travel expenses, including fuel, wear and tear on your vehicle, and time spent traveling. This is so important. Yeah, most times with my business, there is I use the federal mileage calculation that they have, but I do calculate a little bit for wear and tear on my vehicle, because a lot of notaries over the years, I've seen a lot of very successful notaries, they charge what they call a price point underneath every notary in the area because they want to get more. They consider that I can get more business if I'm just a bit below other notaries in the area. You have to know what it costs you to do the service. Notaries are in a service business. You got to know what it costs you to perform that service. Those notaries that look at the business as, let me charge a little bit lower in a price point, a lot of times they charge so much lower than all the other notaries in the area when they have a major issue with their vehicle, especially if they're a traditional notary like myself, that travels to and from people's homes to do notarizations. When they have a major issue on their vehicle, they can't afford to pay for the repair, and that keeps them out of doing business for several months because they can't afford to get their vehicle paid for. So you got to keep that in mind, the wear and tear, having proper insurance on your vehicle, making sure, like I am very anal about making sure my tires are right, the oil changes are right. And I didn't used to be like that until I started this business. So I'm very anal on making sure the regular maintenance on my car is done. And I have to charge appropriate fees for that to maintain my vehicle. And also, when you think about travel costs, emergency or off-hour travel too. If you are called upon for last minute or after hours appointments, consider adding a premium to these services. A good example of that is I live on the north side of Indianapolis in a beautiful community called Carmel, Indiana. But to get on the east or west side, if I go to do a notarization on the east or west side at about 3 or 4 o'clock, anywhere from 3 to 6 o'clock in the evening to get on the east or west side, it may take me an hour and a half to 2 hours to get there because of traffic patterns, the roads are closed for construction. It may take me a long time to get there, but if I went on a Sunday afternoon at 12 o'clock, may take me 20 minutes to get there. So keep those little things in mind, because those things are so important for how you charge on fee. The next thing you should consider when you're charging your fee is value-added services. Now, what is value-added services? I mentioned a couple of those things. Like I do scanning in the rooms. I can fax documents from the room, from any location. I can do. Some people have bilingual services, which is a premium service. If you offer services in multiple languages, this can be a unique selling point to justify higher fees. Your customer service experience, professionalism, punctuality, and clear communication can position you as a premium provider, enabling you to charge more. And a lot of people say, well, punctuality, professionalism, that's something you should do all the time. That's not necessarily the case for all notaries. Always having a reputation of being there on time, getting the documents back on time, being an effective and efficient communicator with the person that hired you. Those things allow me, because I have clients I still have clients from 2007 that call me to do notarizations, and I always do like a survey and ask, well, what are you looking for? As far as notaries, and they say punctuality, professionalism, always being professional. Great communicator is a big one. Being able to communicate efficiently and effectively, not just to your client, but to the signers. And having that experience where people want to bring you back, not only want to bring you back, but they want you to be the notary for their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, their kids, their kids' kids, their grandkids. They want you to be that notary, and having that value-added service, having that standard in your notary practice will help you with that, and it also helps you with if you're charging just a little bit more on fees too. The sixth thing is documentation and transparency, and that's what invoices and receipts. You always give people what fees you're charging, or approximately what fees you're charging up front. Provide clear and itemized invoice to clients to ensure they understand the charges. If you ever have, and you may have this, and I've had this happen, what are you charging? How much are you charging? Why are you charging that? You should be able to articulate why you charge. I work on a flat fee system, whereas I calculate how much it's going to cost me to do that transaction, and then I can, if asked, I give them a flat rate. If asked, can you break that down? I can definitely break that down. One of the things that works very efficient with is if you do any type of apostille services, and we do have apostille classes online at LewisTraining.online if you're interested in doing any type of apostille courses. But apostille is one of those services that you need to, if a person, it's a premium service that notaries can do for clients. But if clients have questions about, well, why are you charging this amount for this service? You should be able to break it down into why. Not only are you doing notarial services, you are acting as a carrier for that. You're taking it down to the proper offices, government offices, usually the Secretary of State's office. Plus, you got to pay for parking. You got to pay for the mileage down there, and then once it's they get the certification at the Secretary of State's office, you have to take it, either mail it to an embassy or mail it back to the person or take it back to the person. You should be able to break that down. You have to pay for the postage too if you're mailing it out. So you got to be able to break that down and know what to charge for each little thing. So that's another thing, being able to be transparent, knowing what you're going to charge based upon these factors, and then charging that. and making sure you're compliant. Number 7, reason and thing that you should consider when charging fees, your customer demographics. Tailor your fees to needs of the target audience, whether it's individuals, businesses, or underserved communities. You got to tailor your fees to that. If it's a business and let's say, for example, you have a real estate closing and you go to the closing. Sometimes you have a closing, real estate closing, where it's just the buyers and the buyer's agent and the listing agent. Sometimes you go to the closing, it's the sellers, and it's just the sellers alone. Sometimes you go to the closing and it's the buyers, the seller's agent, the buyer's agent, the listing agent, the buyer's attorneys, the seller's attorneys. It can be a full-blown closing like that. But so tailor your fees toward that. And when you get a call, just while I'm thinking about this, when you get a call about, hey, can you accept this assignment? It's a closing in this. You should ask, what type of closing is it? Is it a reverse mortgage? Is it a HELOC? Is it a buyer's closing? Is it a seller's closing? Is it a refinance? You should have that information before you set your fees, if that makes sense. Is there scan backs? So tailor your business to that. And also keep in mind the ability to pay. In some cases, offering a sliding scale pricing or discounts for repeat customers can enhance your loyalty. Sometimes I do give my repeat customers a discount on the fees, but not so low where I'm actually paying for checking fees or banking fees or credit card fees or things like that. But you can just keep that in mind when you are looking at fees. And the final thing that you should consider when you are looking at fees for your notary business is insurance and certifications. In our state, notaries can't do real estate assignments or do closings on real estate that's in Indiana unless you have a certain certification, a certain insurance license. So you got to consider that. If you hold extra certifications or training as like a notary signing agent, this can warrant higher fees. Definitely. If you get a certification in, like, we have an I-9 training, I-9 verification, and I highly recommend people to take that, our I-9, to get that certification so they can charge a little extra on the fees. And also consider the cost of errors and omissions insurance when calculating fees, because in some states it's not required, but in most, with most notary signing agents, it's going to be required by the title companies that's hiring you. You have to have errors and omissions insurance to conduct that, and you should consider that in your fees. Now, by considering these factors, and I'm just going to go over them again: the state laws and the fee limits, the marketing rates, time and effort, travel costs, value-added services like scanning, bilingual, document transparency, understanding when you give a fee, you have to definitely tell what you can break that fee down. This is for notary, this is for carrier, this is for printing, this is for scanning, being able to do that. Customer demographics, tailoring your fees for the assignment, and then considering insurance and certifications that you need. These are all factors that you should consider when you are looking at quoting fees. Notary entrepreneurs can set fair and competitive rates while ensuring their business remains sustainable and profitable. When you're considering fees, definitely consider what it's going to cost you to do that, your time, your effort, the certifications. You got to definitely consider all those factors before quoting a fee. Now, if you like this podcast, you like the information on this podcast, please share, subscribe, and like this podcast. We love doing this for you, and we love you coming here each and every week, increasing your notary knowledge, getting in that flow of notary knowledge that's going to make you successful. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. We love doing this for you each week. Next week is going to be even a bigger topic, and we may have even a surprise for you. So we want to see you back next week. Have a great day.